So I might have set myself up for a bit of a fall talking about the politics of witchcraft, because I'm not sure even what I mean. I mean, I've got a sense of it, but whether or not I can express this spontaneously like this is a different matter. I think if I had lots of time, I could put together a good essay on why I think that we're in danger of politics turning into witchcraft. But let's see if I can get the main point across. I may fail, but that's okay. There's a lot of things here that need to come together, but there are really just 2 or 3 main points. But don't worry, I'm not going to do the weave, as Trump would say. This is going to be coherent, I hope. I'm reminded of that scene in Shaun of the Dead, when Shaun is confronted by a whole bunch of zombies. It's clear that zombies have taken over. They're killing everything in their path. And his idea, when asked for a solution, he says, let's go down the pub and wait for this whole thing to blow over. And I'm wondering whether or not we're all waiting for something to blow over. Is it going to blow over? I don't know. I'm not a prophet, obviously. But with the advent of AI, with the advent of post-human society, these are not things which are speculative. I mean, they're really happening. They're happening now, and they're increasing exponentially. I've just watched Megan 2, actually, Megan 2.0, the sequel of Megan, the movie, about a robot girl. And I was thinking only a few years ago, it would have been very silly, but now it all seems very pertinent. So the future's coming faster than we can cope with, really, now. And it's out of our hands. You remember the days, well, you weren't alive, but you might have read a book about it, or maybe you've seen a film called The Witchfinder General. It's a wonderful film, I do recommend it. It might be a Hammer film. I think it's starring Peter Cushing. Tremendous. So we used to have witchfinders, and they used to basically go around the country trying to find any woman who was looking dodgy, and they would drown them, accuse them of being a witch. I mean, it didn't mean anything, of course. What does it mean? And it was carte blanche, really, for authorities to basically kill anybody they didn't like the look of, who didn't act in the right way, say the right thing. It was a kind of precursor of fascism in many ways, and one that came later. It was replicated later, in a sense, in other authoritarian nations, and particularly I'm thinking of Cambodia under Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. And that was a situation where doctors and teachers and engineers and lawyers and scientists and anybody who was seen as educated, or anybody who was wearing glasses and therefore appeared to be bookish, was executed. And this is what humans do to each other when they're given power without restraint. So it's worth taking that into account when you consider some of the so-called charismatic politicians who are around today. It's almost like we all want to live under a sort of Viktor Orban, or worse. Maybe some of us want to live under Pol Pot. Maybe some of us don't like people who listen to Radio 4 and we want them all dead. I don't know. Things are so strange, it wouldn't surprise me. So these people, in other words, everybody who knew anything was targeted for execution. And they believed, this Khmer Rouge regime, they believed that intellectuals and professionals were associated with this kind of corrupt old society, and they needed to be eliminated to kind of create a pure Cambodia. Hello, does it ring any bells? Yeah? Isn't this what's happening with this new right to some extent? They want to purify the nation. They don't like the universities, they don't like academics, they hate teachers, they're suspicious of medical doctors and medicine. And, you know, can you not see it's roughly the same? Yes, I know there aren't the killing fields yet. So these are anybody who kind of seemed to be intellectual was tortured or executed. They nearly all died. It's a kind of extension of the Witchfinder. So why are we now in an age of superstition? We can only blame ourselves. We're in an age of superstition because we are superstitious animals. We always have been. And I'm going to explain why we're superstitious and what happened after the Enlightenment. The reason we're superstitious is largely because of two things: apophenia and mind mapping or world mapping. In order to negotiate the world, we need to understand it. What happened at the Enlightenment was basically most of those superstitions were replaced with science. And we decided that we could rationally explore the world we were in. And certain academic disciplines like psychology sprung out of that. In other words, we suddenly realized that we could actually seek to rationally understand the world and our place within it and ourselves. So I think what's happening now is that we are sort of backtracking on that. At the heart of this is the fact that we've kind of realized that we don't need the truth. That the truth and reality are surplus to requirements. For the last few hundred years, we've assumed that they were absolutely vital. That without truth and reality, the world and ourselves could not function. And now we've discovered, thanks to various people who have propagated this idea and been able to propagate it very quickly on social media, simply by appearing on the Joe Rogan show or on Fox News or anywhere else of that ilk. They've been able to sow the seeds of an irreality, a magical thinking, a superstition, which we all believe. And we believe it because we've realized in a way, or it has come to pass, that truth and reality are no longer necessary for us to function. We need to believe in something, but it doesn't have to be anything to do with reality. And this has always been the case. In the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, and in histories previous to that, the world was nothing but superstition. And yet we succeeded very well as a species. We believed in thousands of gods. We had strange, what we would now consider strange ideas about cause and effect and karma and how things happen. All of it was fanciful. Nevertheless, we were extremely successful as a species. We didn't need truth and reality actually to survive and thrive. And to maintain the status quo in terms of systems, we found ways that worked, but they weren't based on truth and reality. Now, when Donald Trump, for example, I wish I hadn't mentioned his name again, but I have to mention him as kind of the worst example, I suppose. Donald Trump has realised, I think, that it doesn't matter what he says, that we don't need truth. in order to navigate the world. So we're now moving into a sort of witchy, superstitious age where large minorities of people, I'm not going to say majorities, but large minorities of people are sort of living in a kind of hallucinatory, superstitious arena. And we can't reach them. They cannot be reached anymore. Thing is, knowledge is a slippery substance. Do you remember in that Woody Allen film? I can't remember which one. But he's getting very existential. He's concerned that his life is meaningless. He doesn't have any purpose. He doesn't understand why he's going to die. And he says, you know, even if I read every single book in the New York Library, I'd come out knowing less than when I went in. And there's a truth in that, isn't there? Knowledge is a slippery thing. What can we hang on to? We need to hang on to something. And it doesn't matter whether it's a superstition, or it doesn't matter whether it's a lie. It doesn't matter whether it be, you know, flat earth or something politically relevant to today. The blame game, blaming certain individuals for everything. If it suits us, if it enables us to function in this world, then it doesn't matter whether it's truth or lies. So I think we're heading for a very strange place, because not only we've got that kind of growing hallucinatory world, which is still growing and thriving. Lies don't kill. They can encourage growth. So why does believing almost anything still count? Well, because the world is complex. It's too complex. Think of the economies, climate issues, geopolitical issues, personal issues. Think of the rapid change of those issues. Think of the technological shifts that are going on. We have to have a mind map to negotiate all of this. We have to have a way of thinking, of modelling the world that enables us to move forward. We can't grasp any of these things. They're changing too rapidly and they're too complex. And so we adopt very, very simple ideas. And often we borrow those simple ideas from people who want to manipulate our fragility. We invent a truth, or we grab one from the usual suspects, I call them. And then we make our mind map, and we make a model out of these fragments. And it feels like it's a working model, you know. We think it's a sleek Ferrari, but actually it's not. It's a broken down old Lada. But it still will push us forward. It still will get us to where we want to go, which is to the end of our lives intact. We're looking for order in chaos, and this is what apophenia is. It's basically, think about that as when you find patterns in things which are chaotic to some extent, like cloud formations, and you can see a beautiful galloping horse in the cloud, or maybe you've got a patterned carpet in a Wetherspoon's pub. Well, if you glaze over and stare at that long ago, you'll probably begin to see faces in there. And the mind is always trying to find a world that works. We need emotionally satisfying explanations to everything, and we'll get them from anywhere. And we'll be biased in where we select our information from, our knowledge and mind map, our world map, our model. We're just going to select things that kind of reinforce what's already there, what we already kind of prejudicially think about the world. That's just the way we are. And I don't know whether I put it across very well, but what I was saying was that in many ways it's better to believe in nothing than believe in something. If you believe in nothing, you're in a very neutral, safe place. It's possible to believe in nothing. You don't have to have a stance on everything. And the problem with the new media, if you like, is that everything is contentious. There's not anything that's ever been said, really, which isn't contentious, unless you're involved in pure mathematics or pure science. And facts. But everything else is completely contentious, and now the world is full of contrarians. It's easy to say something in opposition to a statement you've heard. I don't know where it gets us. It just means somebody says, I think this, well, you're an idiot, I think this. Not understanding that almost everything is contentious, can be contended. We live in a dualistic world. So, it's not rocket science and it's not something you haven't heard before, but these leaders, these influencers, these guys on YouTube and all the rest of it, and I mention them because they're now the most powerful people in the world. I mean, you can have an academic, you can have an academic physicist. No one's going to listen to him. He's written maybe a paper that's been in Science Today or Nature. Or you can have an historian, who's written a book, about the rise of democracy or something, and it's sold 300 copies, and it might be a man who spent 20 years on it researching. And yet you can get some idiot go on Joe Rogan or go on one of these YouTube channels where they're getting 8, 10, 12 million, talking about either a flat earth or, just something absolutely bizarre. And these people give them space and they're tuning into 12, 20 million. I mean, the whole thing's turned on its head. It's crazy. And it's like a kind of witchcraft in the effect that it has on people. It's like puts people under a spell of illusion. So all of these guys, they're going to look for like really neat little solutions to everything. And I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely sick of it. Sick of listening to these guys dissect every single part of our lives, part of our psychology, our desires, our politics, our plans, our health, our sense of who we are, dissecting every aspect of it and giving us a sort of solution, which is kind of irrelevant and made up. And the problem is, it doesn't matter. If you can fit that little jigsaw piece that you get into your little world map and it allows you to function, it's fine. You don't care whether it's a lie or whether it's true. All you want is a map for the world, an idea about the world, so you don't freak out. So I think it's better to believe in absolutely nothing. We don't need to believe in anything. We can visit the world every day, and take it as we find it. We've got plenty of inner resources to be able to deal spontaneously with situations. I think most of us have a moral compass. And I think that's a natural moral compass, actually, in many ways. I don't think we need to be told, what's good and what's bad, actually. I don't think we need to hate as much as we do. I think it's like hate is a personal racket, which we kind of find a bit satisfying. So, negotiate the world as you find it, day to day. Don't listen to any of these people. Why are they in it? They're not in it for you. They don't give a damn. They've got their own mind model, which is just a sort of bits of broken vase that they've stuck together with cheap glue, but that is enough for them. And there's not one of them that isn't into it for money. It's all about money. Let experts be your guide again. Find your own experts, but experts do exist and they are real. There are quiet people who work away putting together stories based on facts that can tell us about the world and ourselves and politics. But they won't do it in a soundbite or a YouTube thumbnail. They often do it in books. And I don't mean those ridiculous business books and sort of those non-fiction books. I'm talking about story narratives that tell us about the world. I'm not going to start recommending books, otherwise they'll sound like Jordan Peterson, who's constantly going on, don't stop. Okay. So what's happening is we are burying the people who've got the knowledge, and we're replacing them with lunatics, pumped up lunatics. We're giving them 1,000,000 times more space on Carlson and Rogan and GB News and 1,000,000 others. It's no different from what Pol Pot was doing. He liked to destroy those who had knowledge too. Why do you think he did that? And why do you think they're doing it now?